me if I got it wrong, but you don't wanna be alone.
Hi and welcome. This is Barbara from Vienna, Austria. We are going to do a junk journal with me in the custom book that I'm doing for Nancy, which is the Gulla book. There is a part 1 to this. I will link it below in case you haven't seen it and are interested. So I'm just going to continue working on the pages as if it was my own journal. And this gorgeous book that you see here, I just bought a couple days ago in the bookshop where I'm actually selling my own journals. And this is not vintage, as you can probably see, but I had to have it because of these gorgeous, gorgeous bird images. And they're such good quality, and they're on thick paper. And they have this unique feature that you can just punch them out on the top. And I thought that was so cool that I wanted to have this book. And I also found it on Amazon, so I will be linking that below as well in case you have to have one as well. You'll see how I use that in a moment. So I'm using my, oh boy, what was the name? I asked you guys and you thankfully wrote what it's called. It's called, what is it? A stitch ripper, I think it was the American term, stitch ripper, if I'm not mistaken. So now I am punching these out, and it's very easy, as you can see. And so you have the beautiful images left on the top, and on the bottom you have the information about the bird. This is a German book, by the way, and I'm going to try to put this in this Gulla book since I haven't sewed in the signatures yet, just like a regular page. So I wanted to see how that would look because I thought that was really unique and cool. And they were too wide and too tall, but that did not matter. I wasn't cutting off anything essential by trimming that down. So I'm going to do that, hopefully without chopping off the birds' heads or beaks. Okay, now the page fits nicely, but there was some more adjusting that I wanted to do before I'm happy with it. So one thing was I wanted to cut off all of these little bits that are left over when you punch die cuts out. So I went ahead and did that, and then while I was doing that I realized actually it's easier to use a bit of sandpaper to just sand those bits off, and it comes out much smoother. So I did that, especially for the inner parts. That worked a lot better. So that's a little tip for you there if those things bother you as well. Next, I thought actually I don't even need that middle part on the top where the images are, so I decided to cut that off as well. Just cutting around the parts of the birds. So in the end you can't really see that there ever was a middle part. So I really like that a lot better. I'm just sanding some of the parts smooth. You can do that when it's a thicker cardstock. So really happy with how that was looking. But then I decided it was too new and it needed some tea dye on the edges. I will have that link below as well in my affiliate Amazon links in case you need one and you can't find one locally. So this is what it looks like once it's inked up with the tea dye. And I wanted to use tea dye instead of my regular photo, vintage photo, because it's lighter and it just, I thought it would just give it a softer look. So this is what it looks like inside the book now, and I'm really, really loving that. Next, I found this beautiful book in my Goodwill. It's also not a vintage book. It's from, I think, 1991. And I will show you the beautiful images it has inside. And I've also found this on the German Amazon, so I will link that for you as well, as used books. They're very cheap. They're like around €3, and it's a huge fat book with loads of beautiful animal images, and especially a lot of beautiful bird images. So as you can see here, these are just some of the ones, and they're just gorgeous and great for collages and tags and what have you. So yeah, they also have fish and they have mammals and lots of cute animals. So this I can really recommend. Check out the used ones, but you got to be quick because I think there's only like 8 or so used ones that I saw. So if you want to go check those out soon. So yeah, here you see, these would have been really cool for Halloween as well, for my Halloween video. If you haven't seen that and want to see that, I will link that down below as well. I think that's a pretty fun video. I do 2 collages in that one as well. And here you see, I spent, actually the same day I made the video, a couple hours cutting out some of these birds. There's quite a few in there, and I was watching 2 movies while I was doing that, and I had a beautiful relaxed time on the couch. I loved it. I know a lot of people don't have the patience to fussy cut like that, but for me it's just so relaxing. I really enjoy it. And then I decided I was going to make a little collage on this cardstock, which is just a 200 GSM marble beige cardstock, to go into that first pocket on the first page of the book. So I'm starting as usual by making a background with some vintage paper scraps. And as always, I only put down pieces either horizontally or vertically. I don't use any weird angles. I just can't. It just doesn't look nice for me. So I'm just choosing various papers that all have, I can't even say a similar coloring because there are variations, but they all have this vintage look to them. Even this striped one from a notebook is a vintage notebook, so it has this cream color, which I really like. And so it was very easy to just cover up that card for a background. Now the next step is for me to choose my focal points, and I thought I was going to use 1 or 2 of these birds. So I'm just playing around with different birds, different sizes and different colors to see what I think would work best for this collage. So I'm just auditioning some of them.
I'm yours. If you let go, boy, loving is a safe card. You don't have to play hard. Love and let go, boy. You don't have to play smart. We can take it slow. You know it. Every time is a blessing, and I know we can take it to the next level.
And finally I came to the decision to using these 2 little fellows. And here I just cut off some excess, and now I'm going to use my gesso. I will have that linked below as well. You can also use white acrylic paint if you want. Maybe thin it down a little bit. And I'm just using my finger to spread it because I do have the most control with my finger. And I did wash it immediately afterwards because I do think it's a bit toxic. But it's just a few seconds that I'm using it. And I'm using my tea dye again to first of all go around the edges, and then to also stain the gesso a little bit so it's not so stark white. And I will be adding some more color later as well. And then for the outside, I also added some of the vintage photo just to give the edge a little more depth and definition. And then I also wanted to ink the birds up with the tea dye to make them blend in more with the background so they wouldn't just stick out. And then I thought, well, I wanted this card to also have a little tab because I love tabs. So I'm just using one of my vintage scraps. I'm going to glue that onto that same beige marbled cardstock, and I'm going to fold it in half. And now either you just cut the shape of a tab by hand, or if you're lucky you have this tab punch that I love so much, and I will show you that in a moment, which is also linked below, to cut out a tab shape. And I'm using this so much. I love this punch so much. And I'm just showing you, so you fold it and then you put it in to have a little bit of the gap on the top so that it doesn't punch through where you have the fold. And then you have a beautiful double-sided tab that you can put anywhere you want. And I just love this. So I'm using my vintage photo to go around the edges, and my 3-in-1 glue, which is linked down below as well because I'm so in love with it. And I'm going to just add that to the top of my collage, just because it's not necessary, but just because I really think it's cute. So we have our tab, and next step is to put a little more interest into the background. I wanted to choose some postal stamps, and this is a book for postage stamps that I have from the flea market. And I love these, they're so versatile. If you know my videos, you know I use these also for smaller ephemera and for my book phrases and everything. They're just so cool to use. So here I'm going through my stamps, and what I'm looking for is some stamps that would kind of blend into the background. So I'm looking for like tones, like earthy tones. Because on the one hand I wanted interest, but on the other hand I didn't want to distract from the focal points, the red birds. So that is a fine balance, but you will see later how that looks, and I really love how that turned out actually. So all of these I'm choosing fall into that color scheme, and I love that I have so many international ones. So I have stamps here from all around the world, and it's so fun to have all of those in my collage. That was a Greek one, there was a Czech one a moment ago, I think this is a German one if I'm not mistaken, not sure. So most of these I have in categories in my book, but some are like in the miscellaneous categories because I couldn't add that many categories. So now what I'm doing is I am placing the stamps around the birds to kind of frame them so that the stamps would still be peeking out underneath, because otherwise there's no point in having beautiful stamps if you're not going to see parts of them. And those that have the black on it, if you can see, I'm placing them like in a triangle shape. There's one on the right, one on the left, and one on the bottom to form this triangle shape, so that it keeps your interest wandering around the page instead of clustering them all together in one spot, and then the collage seems kind of unequal. And I added one kind of in the middle to connect the two, which I also thought was kind of important. And put the last one up there, and I really like how those frame them. And now I've glued everything down except the birds, so the stamps are all glued down now, pretty much in the same place I had them. And then I thought it would be fun to add another dimensional element, and I have this dyed cheesecloth from Renee from GT Designs, who had sent this to me with her flow journal. So now I wanted to add some of that underneath both of the birds, kind of to, I guess, symbolize like a nest. So I'm just cutting that even smaller and putting that just underneath their feet where the branch is. And it doesn't add a lot of bulk, but it adds another layer of texture, and I really love that. So I'm just gluing that down again with the same glue. And then I'm also going to glue that down the birds, also with this 3-in-1 glue, because if I would have used glue stick, it wouldn't have glued well on the cheesecloth. Okay, so now we're ready for the next step, which is going to be to add some more color to the background. So I'm taking my Faber-Castell water-soluble colored pencils, and I will also have some of those linked below, but you can use anything that's water-soluble if you want to do this step. So you could use water-soluble crayons or markers or anything. So what I'm doing is I chose again some earthy tones, and I'm going to just go around some of the elements to just give the whole page a little more color, to mute the gesso down a little bit as well, and to just give a little more interest. So you'll see now I'll just go around all kinds of parts of the collage around the stamps where they have the white edge, and just go around it with my brush, and that gives it a really nice soft effect. So I learned this from Marta from Maremi Small Art. If you don't know her channel, you need to check out her channel if you're into collages, because she has the most amazing videos and tutorials, and I love her channel so much. So you can learn so much from her. So this is one of her techniques. I will link her video down below as well. So that is all for the background. And for the final touch of this collage, I'm going to also add some words. So here I'm going to go through my other little stamp book. I have a video on this where I made the cover. I didn't make the cover, I covered the cover because I didn't like the original cover. So I'll link that video down below. And I have here my collection of book phrases that I have cut out from books. And I'm so happy I found one that is just perfect for this collage, and I swear I did not plan this. But I knew I had some with birds in them, and I found this one. I'll read it for you in a second, or you can read it yourself. So, beside the pond, he saw a small bird with pretty red feathers on its wing. I mean, can it be more perfect? I have two birds here with red feathers, so that had to go on that collage. And what I'm doing now is I'm just cutting that down, and I realized that having it like that is just too bulky. And so I decided to cut that in half to have two single strips, so I can just separate them a little bit, and that will look a lot more, how should I say, maybe delicate. I like that look a lot better. So I'm just inking that up with the vintage photo, and then I'm just gonna glue those down on the bottom there. And that's the collage finished, and I must say I totally love it. Very, very happy with it. Beautiful fall colors as well. And final part, I'm just going to ink up the back of the card as well. So now I'm just going to put it in this pocket in my front page of the book, and that's basically our first piece of ephemera that we have there. Now next I wanted to do something, I wanted to continue with this little tag that I made, or not so little maybe, in the first part. So I wanted to put something in the little pocket that we created in the back. And I wanted some floral images, and I wanted some images of flowers that you could maybe find on a meadow, like wildflowers you would find on a nice summer walk. And so I go through some of these cutouts. Unfortunately, I cannot give you the names of the book that I have these from. I got rid of the book a while ago. So I found these dandelion images, and I went for that one because the size was perfect. And I thought dandelions are great because you can definitely find dandelions if you go on a summer walk. And since I knew that Nancy, for whom this journal is not interested in journaling in this book herself, but she just wants it for inspiration. So I thought it would be cool to add some of the original book page of this book in the back, and it would also give it a little more strength. So I just glued that on the book page, cutting around it now, and now I'm going to round the corners, just because it gives it a little more of a finished look. And finally I'm going to ink that up as well with my tea dye to give it a softer look than if I would do that with the vintage photo. I'm doing that on both sides, and now I have this little tag that I can stick in the back. And for the front, all I wanted to do was I did want to add a ribbon on the top. So I have this ribbon collection, which I got somewhere locally a really long time ago. But they look like from the country, like from Austria or Switzerland or Germany. We have similar styles. And so I went for this one with the red and the white hearts. I thought that went really well, but I didn't want to tie a bow because it was way too bulky. So instead I decided to just put it through the eyelet and then tie that off with a piece of white or off-white thread instead, which was a lot less bulky. And so I'm just gonna tie a double knot around this first to make it stay together. And then I thought it would be cute to add a little tiny tag on top. And I have a few of those in my little ephemera folder. This is another vintage postage stamp book that I found at the flea market. And I just chose one of these white tiny tags. And I have this stamp set with small floral stamps. And this is from AliExpress. If I will try to find that again to link that below. And I actually had a dandelion stamp, but I decided to go with another one that had a single flower because I thought that would look better on this tiny tag. And I'm using my Memento Espresso Truffle stamp or stamp pad. This one looks almost like it's black, but it's like a dark gray kind of color. And so that is what that flower looks like. And I think it's really cute on that tiny tag. I'm just going around it with my tea dye again. And I'm going to thread that through that off-white thread. I'm going to also tie a little bow around that because that is not bulky because the thread is so thin. And that's what that looks like. I really love it. I hope Nancy loves it. So that's all we're gonna do for today. And then I thought, actually the tag doesn't have to go in any pocket. It could just be a bookmark because that would be cute, just sticking out like that. So maybe I'll just leave it as a bookmark. So that's all we're gonna do in the book today. I hope you enjoyed this. I will continue with this series because it's just like my regular junk journal with me, except I'm not keeping the book. So thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you back the next time. Bye.
You don't have to play